WoW's next expansion, Dragonflight, has been in the works for a long time now. And with the expansion releasing at the end of November, we're going to be talking about 10 of the features you should look forward to the most in the upcoming expansion. Our first new feature is a new type of spell casting method only available to the new class, the Invoker, which basically gives bonus abilities to spells if they're cast at their full duration, or can be chosen to be used instantly. This is kind of a staple in a lot of MOBA games, and has largely not been used in WoW. Though there have been some instances of Blizzard's trying to do some clunky talents like this that nobody ever took in the past, like Power Shot for Hunters. It seems Blizzard is actually trying to get it right this time by incorporating it into a class, as well as using a lot in the quest and experience itself. For now, however, empowered spells show a great bit of promise, that if received well, could see themselves added to the base classes. Think of a hunter who can hold their shot to increase their crit chance and damage as you hold your breath, and steady your aim for a fatal shot. A mage's Pyroblast to become larger and larger, even giving it an AoE radius with Molten Fury infused into it, or Chaos Bolt with barrages of Chaos Energy unleashed after holding the spell for a period of time. Next up, we have the Reagent Bag Slot. Do you find yourself constantly out of bag space because your bags are filled with profession goods? Wish you could use those profession bags that come with larger sizes but can't bear the annoyance of having some profession items not fit and having to give up a regular bag slot? Wish no more with Dragonflight. After 18 years of World of Warcraft, we finally gained a new bag slot, only usable, however, with a new type of bag called a Reagent Bag. While much like the profession bags of old, these bags can only go into the Reagent Bag Slot, meaning no worrying of wasting bag space that could be filled with a regular bag. These bags can also carry any profession items, not just ones like those of the past. And while you obtain these through various means, you are given one by questing in Dragonflight to give you heads on your professions. And while this alone would be a massive bag saver, we are also seeing stack sizes massively increase to a massive 1,000 for most crafting materials, up from 200. Next up, we have new activities and quests. World of Warcraft has many common quest types: collect this, kill that, escort them, loot this, click that, etc, etc. These quests have been expanded and varied over the years with the Feel the Bar and vehicle quests. However, Dragonflight has introduced a few new series of quests. These 3 quests, based around the Dragonscale Expedition faction, will see you fulfilling requests for the explorers, starting with photography, quests sending you out to zones to run around looking for specific scenarios, creatures, and landscapes to photoshoot, like a newborn proto-drake learning to fly for the first time, a juvenile one catching food all on its own, and sleeping dragons. But it gets all more exciting when we go full Pokemon Snap and are sent off into a raft, tasked with taking pictures of the most exciting and adorable creatures we can find on our riverbound adventure, with specific scenarios giving increased progress for said quests. And lastly, a somewhat return to the puzzle-like quest of the Curator, we have rock climbing, navigating mazes of rock ledges and avoiding various hazards, all while collecting resources and enhancing your climb with various abilities, along with its own research tree given by a Dragonscale expedition, enhancing your abilities in not just rock climbing, but rafting, photography, and even treasure collecting, giving you the ability to see through walls to find treasures around the world, letting you enjoy the feeling of exploring and documenting the Dragon Isles. Now, reputation is something we've had since vanilla, but has seen little iteration since. However, with Shadowlands, we saw a heavily criticized attempt to replace it, and rightfully so, as it held massive power increases behind it like soulbinds, conduit stats, and gear, all while being time-gated to a specific amount each week that were just granted to you. Nothing like the point-based reputations we were used to. However, with Dragonflight, we are finally seeing the rightful replacement to reputation. Renown is being overhauled and used for the 4 major factions of Dragonflight. No lockout of choosing one, no weekly time gate, no set quest to get it, simply do things that give rep like kill rares, do quests and world quests, find treasures, and do weeklies, and with this rep you gain Renown, with 25 to 30 Renown levels in each faction. These Renown levels also contain little to no player power, making them almost entirely optional, unlocking cosmetics like mounts, customizations for them, pets, toys, and transmog for weapons to backpacks to clothes. And because they contain little power, that makes these Renown levels and factions mostly account-wide, as simply unlocking these reps will give you the benefits to all your characters, even including the unlocked activities, which we'll talk more about later. The 4 major factions, being the Dragonscale Expedition, focus on exploring and researching the lands, the main source of them being mentioned rock climbing and photography, while also giving you access to ancient waygates. The Iskara Tuskar focus on fishing and cooking, giving you upgradable fishing activities like harpooning, netting, ice fishing, and even lava fishing, culminating in a giant community feast. The Maruk Centaur's main focus is hunting the primal fauna within the Isles, beasts and their various boons assisting you in hunting down some of the biggest beasts on Azeroth. The last is the Valdrakken Accord, based within the major city of Valdrakken, based around the Union of the Dragonflights. This faction has the biggest focus on the Draconic, including your mount, unlocking all sorts of flight-based activities. And for those of you worrying who prefer the older styles of reps, do not worry, as there's still a few of those to cover the lesser factions within the expansion. World of Warcraft's UI has had countless changes over its lifespan, small and large, but none even compare to that of Dragonflight's. Taking a lesson from the countless add-ons players have relied on since vanilla, the UI has been streamlined to be sleek and organized with a steel sheen that brings it to the current century. With the UI's customization seeing huge changes as well within the options, the first being an overhaul of the settings menu, allowing you to search up options, no more trying to find those pesky keybinds, or that random setting you just can't remember what page is on, like maybe the new one bag setting, which changes your usual multi-bag UI into one gigantic bag for those who wish to organize more, so a giant bag than a ton of tiny pouches. Or maybe the new auto cast feature, which removes the need to spam your usual filter spells every cast. This new setting allowing you to simply hold down the keybind for your Shadow Bolt, for example, and when it finishes casting, the next Shadow Bolt will begin. Although the biggest of all the changes is the edit mode feature. This new feature allows us total control over the UI, with complete control over every element of the screen, minimap, buffs, debuffs, unit frames, bars, all free to move or change the size however you wish. With 3 more action bars added on top of the ability to fully format them as you wish. 1 row of 12, 2 rows of 6, or whatever your heart desires. You can make your perfect UI and even share them using the UI profiles feature to move to your alts or send to your friends or just import from online. These changes are sure to mean many players will stop worrying about their add-ons resetting every new patch. Professions have had their ups and downs over the years, and with Dragonflight, we are hitting an upward ascent with many changes. The first major change being that of the auction house with a new function called work orders, allowing players who want something crafted to put in requests. These requests then are able to be fulfilled by their fellow players as long as you supply your own materials and give a good tip, that is. This means even those of you Mythic Raiders who don't have crafting professions can still have a player who has never touched a raid in their life fulfill that work order for you, crafted you the best gear they can muster, and earn their wage doing so. But how will you stand out with all the other crafters? Well, with our 3 new additions to professions in Dragonflight, first being quality. Quality is a new rank system that affects all crafted gear from rank 1 to rank 5, with more rank increasing the overall item level of the crafted item and affecting almost all reagents, however with only 3 ranks. The purpose of the reagent rank is to increase the possible rank of the item crafted using them, and well, how do you get these higher quality items? First off with higher skill, and second off profession stats. These stats give various bonuses to your work, be it resourcefulness, which means you have a chance to be refunded some of the crafting materials back, crafting speed to speed up your crafting, multi-craft, which gives you a chance to craft multiples of the same item, of course only working on stackable items like consumables or reagents, and lastly inspiration, which gives an increased chance to be inspired when crafting something, increasing the quality of the finished product. And how do you gain these stats? Through the new profession gear, of course. In the past, we had various items like pickaxes or glove enchants which are required to mine or simply buff your stat. However, with Dragonflight, we have new profession items for all the secondary professions. These items are equipped into their own profession slots, and even show up when you do said craft. Collect a node, a helmet, pickaxe, and ore crate replacing your normal mod, disappearing when you next enter combat. Crafting a ton of engineering goods? Well, you get a fancy pair of gloves, a welder's helmet, and a spanner tool to help you. And these items all have their own stats, allowing you to up your profession game. And while there is some customization in the sense that you can do your best to stack specific stats, the biggest allowance for customization in Dragonflight's professions is the return of a new and improved profession specialization system. By doing content out in the world, and of course doing your profession, you will earn specialization points to spend on various skill trees for your profession. And with these skill trees, you can invest in specific buffs, benefits, and recipes. Some examples being engineering, allowing you to focus on your gadgets, reducing their chance of malfunction, while also allowing you to have better control over them, or maybe upgrading your bombs, giving you more powerful explosives, and craft extra mini bombs on the side. But crafting professions are not alone. Gathering professions also have these. For example, with your mining you can invest into elemental expertise, and with this gain a new mining ability. This ability on a 12-hour cooldown lets you empower an elemental node. These nodes are found around the world and give you extra materials when harvested. However, when using this ability, a specific effect occurs. Earth will erupt into smaller mining nodes, Fire will summon a fire elemental with the bonus loot, and Titan will create a portal that when entered brings you next to the nearest mode. You can even focus on upgrading each of these specific types of nodes, empowering them even further, like with the Titan upgrades allowing you to take the portal back to your original location if you wish. And while the 12-hour cooldown seems long, each mining node you gather while on cooldown will drastically reduce the cooldown of the ability. And with all these massive profession changes, we are sure to see the market flood with people who once saw profession as a boring menu, now its own path to enjoy the game. The world is a huge part of World of Warcraft. It's kind of in the name, and while the past expansions have introduced dailies, more common rares and treasures, and world quests to encourage us to enjoy the world, with Dragonflight we're getting a few new series of events. Ones that either are available right away, or very early into the Renown levels as mentioned earlier. The Dragon Isles have awakened. This includes the Enraged Primal Fury within, and with this, the elementals will siege key locations at random. These elemental events are marked on your map, and upon going there, you'll be tasked with killing as many enemies as you want. The creatures in the land itself empowered with the elements, be it a firestorm that causes the ground to erupt with magma, and enemies to lob fireballs and explode with low, thundering storms, erupting earth, or chilling winds and blinding storms. These areas are quite dangerous. However, they are worth it, giving you 2 currencies. These 2 currencies can then be brought to the Valdrakken, where there you can use Elemental Overflow to buy yourself some obscenely good-looking gear. That is not half bad at item level either, paired with armor-wide set bonuses. And then using Storm Sigils, a time-gated currency, upgrade them to almost raid level, allowing world content players to get some pretty good gear without entering into the usual endgame systems. Our next set of open world content is the Centaur hunts. These hunts are unlocked by gaining rep with the Centaur. These multi-stage hunts take you all across the zone, protecting and hunting down the beasts of the land to prove yourself, but you are not alone. Not only can you work with other players, you are also able to bring with you a massive dog, or eagle, doing their best to assist you on your hunt, customizable in both color and skills that progress as you gain reputation. These hunts can be a fun way to gather meats and hides, while also gathering rare rewards and the odd rare material. Our next event is something we mentioned before, the Community Feast. This Community Feast is reputation unlocked from the Tuskar, happening only in the deep southwest of the Azure Span. This event has you and everyone else who shows up helping a Tuskar chef make a massive meal. Started at poor quality, this meal is empowered stage by stage with the player's help. You and your fellow players will be given tasks with a yes chef replying, of course. These tasks range from beating up chunks of meat to tenderizing them, catching fish, buying or gathering various ingredients that are found around the outpost, or dealing with the pests, and of course dealing with massive beasts following the scent of your soup. Of course, to be put into the soup once you deal with them. Performing your tasks not only increases the quality of the soup, but also gives you a reputation with the Tuskar. At the end, giving anyone who chooses to come eat the soup while it is still warm an hour-long buff. Said buff being stronger and stronger the better the soup. So try to get that legendary soup. And while we're on the Tuskar, they also have fishing holes. These holes are around the world and contain various fishing activities. Using your Tuskar nets to passively catch fish, using harpoons to beach larger catches, and of course, fishing with higher chances at better quality fish. A nice spot for people to spend their time together, gathering amongst each other with one goal to simply fish. Our last major event is the Siege of Dragonbane Keep. Unlocked for the Valdrakken Accord, this event is the southwest of the Waking Shore, a massive keep filled with elite elementals and fire giants. This multi-stage event has you prepare for a siege, with players and NPCs alike. First, gathering forces and preparing for the forward assault. Defending and feeding the draconic toad carrying your supply cart to the front lines, to then setting up forward base and eventually a multi-stage siege on the keep itself. Ending at a boss fight against a leader of the keep to gain lots of resources and some epic loot. An event that, while basic, is quite enjoyable in having you work with your fellow players, all while finding various objects in the area to assist you in your battles, like buckets of magma, hammers to throw, or snail shells to toss. World of Warcraft launched with 9 classes, having since added 1 regular class and 2 hero classes. We had a cycle of new classes every other expansion, however this was broken with Shadowlands, but Dragonflight has amended this issue with the introduction of the hero class Evoker and the Drakthir race. The Evoker class can only be picked by the Drakthir race, a race of draconic beings created by Neltharion 20,000 years ago. Meanwhile, the Drakthir race can only be Evokers. This is because to have a dragon race, it would be odd for them to simply not have draconic abilities, and racial simply wouldn't do it, so they were given entirely their own dragon class. Although it is very likely possible that the Drakthir may come to other classes in the future as the dragons mingle with mortals. Starting at level 58 in their own starting zone, they do the usual hero class activities of catching up on what happened while gathering new abilities as they progress. These Drakthir Evokers have an amazing level of customization compared to the regular races. This is very likely to make up for the lack of very much transmog visible in the dragon form, being locked to shoulders, belt buckles, and tabards. This allows for a fair bit of armor customization without the need for transmog. So while limited, you will not need to worry about running around nude. Helmets, shirts, chests, shoulders, forearms, gloves, legs, boots, loincloths, and more are available to choose from character customization at the barbershop, with colors matching the various Dragonflights. Of course, being a dragon, they have 2 of the most obvious racials, being a tail sweep and wing buffet, abilities every dragon needs. But enough about the race, what about the class? Well, the class has 2 major specs, that of healing focus on the healing properties of the green Dragonflight, and time manipulation of the bronze, while the DPS spec focuses on the damaging properties of the red and blue Dragonflights. Created to fill in the gaps his black Dragonflight has, this class focuses entirely on casting, and because of this lacks the tank spec, the first new class to not have one, funnily enough, although he has not left them entirely free of his Dragonflight's influence, giving them some key black Dragonflight abilities to lock down enemies, harden their scales, or the most infamous ability of his daughter Nyxia, Deep Breath. Of course, both specs have some of each Dragonflight to be fair. Evokers also are the only class currently to utilize the before mentioned empowered spells. A massive flame breath that you hold down with your maw to empower with more draconic wrath. An arcane barrage you can hold longer to lock out more nearby targets, conjuring a leaping bolt of spiritual energy that leaps to more targets the longer you charge it. Or a breath of emerald mist that shortens with cooldowns and heals for more the longer you hold your breath. On top of the use of the empowered abilities, this class has many talents that enhance these, giving them extra regeneration of their mana resources essence upon casting an empowered spell, or increasing the max level of their empowered spells to 4, or even allowing you on a cooldown to instantly cast a max rank empowered ability. This class will have you weave in empowered spells between explosions of red fire, bursts of emerald healing, eruptions of blackened earth, and barrages of arcane frost, only to be reversed and done again by the Time Warp Bronze. This class has an excessive level of depth, even given a warning on character creation. The class, while a caster, has a shorter than normal range, costing quite a bit of possible space. However, to their benefit, they have an extreme amount of mobility. First of all, their hover ability bursting them forward before then giving them a speed boost, all the while being able to cast while moving. They can also target an ally and then a location with their rescue, causing them to jump to the ally, swoop them up, and bring them with you as you rush to the target location. And while these benefits are both nice, they also hold their raid capabilities, like their passive raid-wide buff that reduces the cooldown of movement abilities, and a whole host of other abilities that buff your allies' movement, allowing for you and your fellow slackers to get out of the quickly increasing fire damage of a dragon's breath. Talent trees are a massive part of WoW's history, having been a mechanic that set them apart from other MMOs at the time, allowing you to customize your class to be your own. However, as each expansion came along and it got larger and larger, with Blizzard trying to reduce it once, before simply butchering it into the talent rows we have now. While these rows were nice in the sense that they made talent changing far easier, and made choice feel impactful, since you were making only a couple of big choices instead of constant little ones, it removed a lot of the customization aspect that WoW had. And while this is not technically a new thing for many players, at least those who have not been playing the game for over a decade, this is new, especially since the game has been without talents at this point longer than it had them. So with that out of the way, let us cover talent trees, a staple of Warcraft returning for some, new for many others, and of course with these trees, we now see the return of many long-lost abilities and even some new ones. Talent trees of the past give you 1 point every level that you can place in as you wish across separate trees specific to each spec. And while Cataclysm made you invest heavily into your primary tree before hybriding into others, until then you could freely go into each tree evenly. Dragonflight has sadly gone away from this, but in exchange given us 2 separate trees, with each level giving a talent to one of the 2 trees, alternating with each level. The first tree sits on the left, and this one is your class tree. This contains many key abilities and features. For example, your interrupts, your movement abilities, your defensives, and some generic class abilities. However, these do allow you somewhat to hybrid, and while the talent rows of the past lock you into 1 choice per row, this tree is entirely free to go around as you wish, as long as you invest enough points to continue further. While the right side talent tree is that of your specialization, allowing you to customize how your spec plays specifically, usually being more focused on your overall output, healing, damage reduction, or damage depending on what role you play. There is 3 different types of talent choices in these trees. Single point talents, these are as simple as can explain, you put 1 point in and are done, either giving you a passive or an active ability. We then have multi-point talents. These talents can be given only 1 talent point for a basic but weak version of the talent, or can be given a second talent point to fill out the talent point, not only strengthen it, but also allowing you to then continue onto the talents connected to it. And our last type of talent is the Make of Choice talent. These are talent nodes where you must choose between 1 of 2 talents. These are the only talents that lock you out of being able to mix and match things. For example, you can choose Inquisitor's Eye, which summons a familiar to passive DPS for you, or a Jailer, which will deal massive AoE damage, with gained souls increasing its duration. However, you cannot have both. The talent trees are also something huge compared to the talent roles of old, allowing for infinitely more options and combos you can pull, which might be difficult for new players, or even old. So there's recommended starter builds by Blizzard in the built-in UI. Although I'm sure most of you are just going to look up builds online, which is a good thing that Blizzard has a built-in talent tree profile system. These profiles can be saved, named, and imported/exported, meaning no more carefully following a guide. All you simply need to do is copy-paste a code to insert or share your build. Talent trees return the customization WoW once prided itself on. With Demonology, for example, having many interesting focuses of builds. Down the left, you focus on conjuring armies of ever-growing imps, including imp gang bosses, sacrificing them to empower yourself and explode enemies, while opening a portal to the Nether, filling it with soul shards to unleash armies of demons, peeking at literal pit lords. Or maybe you go down the right and focus on the ever-faithful Demonology exclusive Felguard, making it a literal demonic general, with its simple resource empowering the demons you summon, while your demons their own gain their own powers, and in exchange even giving power back to the Felguard. culminating in your Felguard being able to chuck its axe at enemies, dealing constant damage to those around it, while going into Demonic Fury, punching enemies rapidly with exploding fists. Or maybe you wish to go down the center, focusing on summoning as many demons as possible, all to empower your dots and demons with more and more that you summon, ending with the Demonic Tyrant, either reducing its cooldown with every demon summoned, or increasing its damage for every demon you command when it's summoned. But the best part, not only can you go into any of these previously mentioned builds, you can mix and match them as you wish. Invest as much or as little as you want into each, and with that you can make your own unique version of your class. Vanilla launched with mounts starting at pitiful speeds, increasing only at max level. Then the Burning Crusade introduced flying, still slow, although you could increase its speed to 4x that of running on the ground. Although calling it flying at one point was accurate, since Dragonflight it has become obvious it's more like using no-clip, able to turn, ascend, start, or stop on a dime mid-air. You're not really flying, and more so hovering around, meaning even Minecraft has better flying dynamics. And so, of course, we are bringing in true flying here. Dragon riding, the expansion staple feature. When you enter the Dragon Isles, you are stuck to the ground for maybe the first 1 to 2 hours. Although upon earning the trust of the local dragons, you are gifted a proto-drake, one that can dragon ride. These dragons do not work like normal flying mounts, as they first act as normal ground mounts, even jumping when you jump. However, if you jump off a high ledge or double jump, it will then be made obvious that it's not a regular mount as you take off. You start with 3 Vigor, an energy bar that is consumed to cast abilities, starting with a Surge Forward, which sends you lurching forward, increasing with power the slower you're moving, or Skyward Ascent, sending you launching into the sky, each costing 1 energy, and while simply being on the ground will cause your Vigor to recharge, you can also regain Vigor by gaining enough speed to get Thrill of the Skies, notified by this blue wind effect around your Drake. Later, you can unlock 2 other abilities, a Whirling Surge where you do a massive burst of speed forward and a twirl, however at the cost of 3 Vigor, and Bronze Recall. This ability lets you place a marker for 3 minutes, you can then take off and fly to your heart's content from whatever high cliff you set upon, and upon finishing your epic flight land, and within a few seconds press the recall button, teleporting you back to the marker, letting you take off from the highest peak again and again, or even letting you turn in quest and return if you're fast enough. While these 4 abilities are cool, being stuck with only 3 Vigor and such long recharges of them would feel awful, if not for the fact there's dragon glyphs. These glyphs are floating runes marked by achievements with the location names to hint at where you can find them. You can see them from far away, and your dragon will even roar when you're approaching one. These glyphs can be collected by simply flying through them, giving you the achievement and a dragon talent point. These talent points can then be used to enhance and empower your dragon. And good news, because these glyphs grant achievements, all of your alts as soon as they enter the Isles will be able to fly, and be able to fill their talent trees as you wish, meaning no need to regrind them all. Some of these talents increase Vigor counts from 3 to 4, 5 to even 6, reduce time it takes to regenerate Vigor while on the ground, multiple times. There is even 2 sets of choice talents, the first being the choice between a shield that grows as you soar the skies, and upon landing gives you a speed increase and health shield for example, to make gathering and killing mobs much easier. Or the ability to harness the extreme speed from a nosedive, and with this gain increased charges before slamming to the ground, damaging enemies that you clash into, while also disorienting them. The other talent choice you are required to make is very interesting. Both talents give you a short burst of increased Vigor recharge, allowing you to quickly recharge Vigor. However, one is activated by killing mobs, while the other is activated by gathering resources like herbs or minerals. And with the proper choice, you will likely never find yourself lacking in Vigor. And lastly, we have just a few more talents, causing your Whirling Surge to dismount enemy players in PvP when you collide with them mid-roll, allowing for you to force opponents from the sky in war mode, or even cause you to surge forward and Whirling Surge to avoid various obstacles and dismounted abilities in the world in races. Oh yeah, races. Scattered across the Isles are races. These races require you to fly through rings, dodging obstacles, hitting speed boost and Vigor charges, racing to get as fast of a time as you can, with bronze, silver, and gold ranks, with correlating achievements even having rewards to them. While the Valdrakken Accord Renown quickly unlocks world quest variants of these, requiring you to do races, or fly around throwing down flags, picking up lost crates, or consuming swarms of bugs, all becoming part of your daily play. And while flying is fun alone, the best it's seen is during the multiplayer. The first being that of PvP races. Set in each zone is a rotating PvP race. These races will have players queue and then challenge to see who can get first place, racing side by side to get to the end. One of my team members reports that he spent countless hours doing these with other alpha and beta testers and never got tired of the challenge. But PvP can't have all the fun. That is where the Nakhun Offensive comes in. This is one of the new dungeons added in Dragonflight, very obviously the biggest dungeon to ever be added to WoW, as this dungeon is literally the entire Onhiran Plain zone as a dungeon. But question is, how in the heck do we traverse such a huge dungeon? Well, with your dragon riding of course. Flying from boss to boss, pack to pack, with massive tornadoes that boost you along, this dungeon feels great to traverse. As the first ever flyable dungeon, if you don't count the vehicle ones, one that'll be very fun to do and watch, as it'll be interesting to see how top-end players work to optimize dragon riding itself to get through the flight segments. Drakthir are not left out either. While they can dragon ride like any other class/race, I did leave out 2 of their key racials earlier. Soar, a version of dragon riding without vigor, but instead with 2 charges surge forward and 1 use of surge ascent per flight. These allow you to get a fair distance before being forced to land. However, with a long 4-minute cooldown, this can be reduced with 3 minutes with the other racial Familiar Skies, if you have fully explored the content you're on. While this ability is basic as it acts like Dragon Ride with no talents or vigor, being able to use this, for example, while your vigor is empty and recharging, gives you a nice boost above all others. And while dragon riding is cool mechanic-wise, the idea of every player in the Dragon Isles being limited to the exact same 4, maybe 5 mounts the entire expansion is extremely lame. Or it would be if not for the customization. Also unlocked account-wide when you get customizations for the questlines, mobs, bosses, reputations, and more. Anywhere you go, anything you do, you're likely to find a customization for one of your mounts. And with that, WoW has introduced mount customization, with large amounts of customizations from horns, horn colors, scale patterns, scale accents, manes, fins, snouts, armor, tails, and more. Every person will ride their own uniquely made mount. With a couple exceptions, of course at the start of the expansion, everyone will be riding the default mount, where there's also the transformation mount. These mounts are unique skins unlocked that simply overhaul all the customization of that specific mount. The Gladiator Dragon, for example, being a complete overhaul skin for the Drake, an amazing looking mount, especially paired with the Raised Geth skin from the Proto-Drake, giving a more lightning raptor-like appearance. Lastly, about dragon riding. While it is limited to the Dragon Isles currently, Blizzard has said if players like it, they will continue it forward, adding it not only to all of WoW, but also to hopefully all mounts, to allow players to use whatever mounts they wish, and it would simply be a switch to flip, as the Drakthir racial soar already works in every zone you can fly, so regular dragon flying should be a simple addition. Alright, and that's the video. If you have any other videos you'd like to see in the future, please let us know in the comments, or maybe something you're excited about in Dragonflight. Keep your eyes to the sky, and we'll see you in Dragonflight November 28th.